And I swear to God, they're not. I mean, look at the first image. Here's the front office looking into the big plan they have with their heads up their asses. Yeah. Yeah. Once again, guys, Indiana Fever, Caitlin Clark's kind of non-existent on their Twitter X feed. I don't know what's going on. Conversation I was having with some other people was like,
the Indiana Fever's social media activity over the past 10 days has caught the attention of fans.
And the reaction has not been positive. The team's posts have featured very little of Caitlin Clark, a noticeable pattern that has prompted widespread criticism from her fanbase. Game highlights aside, Clark has been largely absent from the team's promotional content. While other players and organizational news have taken up the majority of the feed, the most commented on post recently was the announcement of Bri Hall's signs. The engagement ratio was telling, 5,600 likes against 411 comments, with the comment section dominated by frustrated responses.
Conversation I was having with some other people was like, I mean, has Caitlin Clark purposely said, promote everybody, let everybody else have some shine, but not so much me? I don't understand. Because now the Fever are doing the same thing that the WNBA did. Remember the rookie in Caitlin Clark's rookie year? The WNBA was like afraid to promote Caitlin Clark because it was like, we don't want to promote her out of fear of making all these
The disconnect fans keep pointing to is that the organization appears willing to leverage Clark's fan base for attendance and revenue. 5. But not to center her in the actual product being promoted or built around. That frustration was compounded by the Hall signing itself. The decision to bring in another guard raised immediate questions, particularly given that Kate Martin, a former Iowa teammate of Clark's and a player with a built-in following among the same fan base, the Fever are actively trying to attract, was available and unsigned. Within 36 hours of publicly stating the roster did not need another guard,
the team had added one. The choice of Hall over Martin struck many observers as tone-deaf, given the circumstances.
fear of making all these other players jealous, right? Remember that? Or the media couldn't comment on nobody unless they threw in Angel Reese. Like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese have led this big growth into the WNBA. And you're like, yeah, but I've seen the attendance and I've seen the ratings, and it looks an awful lot like it's Caitlin Clark, singular, as the only person that's led that, right?
the Iowa connection is where things have gotten especially pointed. The Fever announced a May 22nd promotion, tying ticket purchases to an exclusive Iowa crossover item, a Hawkeye-branded hat. The response from Clark's fanbase was sharp and largely unified. The organization wants Iowa fans' money, while showing no real commitment to the player who brought those fans to the league in the first place. Several comments framed it as an attempt to
pull in a fan base that the team has been steadily alienating. A hat, in the view of those fans, does not address the underlying problem.
I don't understand what's going on with the Fever. There is so few Caitlin Clark posts over the last 10 days that it's just strange. And some of those are like game highlights. But far as all these other little activities and this and that and the other, that they're MIA. Missing in action. They're promoting tomorrow.
the broader concern being raised is structural. Clark's rookie season demonstrated what she is capable of when given space to operate. Her run following the Olympic break last season was historic. She nearly won MVP over a 2-month stretch. Under Stephanie White's current system,
That version of Clark has not been visible. The offense is not being designed around what makes her most dangerous.
5. And the organizational communication, both in terms of roster construction and public promotion, does not reflect a franchise committed to building
Around its most valuable asset.
They're promoting tomorrow night's game against the Sparks. We are in LA tomorrow for the first road game of the season. Caitlin Clark and her fans versus the WNBA owners, refs, coaches, players, old guard fans, and the media. Here we go. I mean, what are we doing? Hopefully Stephanie White asks the team what they think the Sparks are going to run.
The parallel being drawn is to the WNBA's handling of Clark's arrival 2 years ago,
when the league was reluctant to lean into her star power out of concern about how other players and established fan bases would respond. Critics argue
the Fever are repeating that same error at the team level, trying to distribute credit and visibility evenly across the roster, rather than
acknowledging what is actually driving interest in the product. The result is a fan base that feels used. Ticket revenue, practice facility funding, television deals, and promotional partnerships have all benefited directly from Clark's presence and the audience she brings.
The Sparks are going to run. One of the worst looks I've ever seen from a coach at any level ever. Wow. The Fever went 1-3 against the Sparks last season. Caitlin didn't play in any of those 4 games. Ray Burrell killed the Fever last year. She's in Chicago. Will it make any difference this year with the same coaching staff in charge? We're going to see.
When the organization then structures the offense around another player, sidelines Clark in its own social media presence,
and offers Iowa-themed merchandise as a goodwill gesture.
It reads to many fans as an organization that understands Clark's commercial value, but is unwilling to reflect that in how the team actually 5. operates. The sentiment circulating across comment sections and fan communities is less about any single decision and more about a pattern. What is?
in the words of multiple observers,
Is a story about an organization and a league that had the biggest women's sports star in history walk through the door and repeatedly found ways to work around her rather than with her. A noticeable pattern has emerged within the Indiana Fever's roster construction. The organization has repeatedly
targeted players out of Dawn Staley's South Carolina program.
We're going to see. They really need to replace the women in the front office. I mean, I don't care if you win or lose. I just want 30 points and 12 assists from Clark. At this point, F the Fever, F Amber, F Stephanie White, F Kelly, who are all trying to drag down Caitlin Clark's numbers because Kathy instructed them to tamper with Clark.
Raven Johnson was the first significant addition through that pipeline,
and Bree Hall's signing has since reinforced what is starting to look like a deliberate and ongoing relationship between Stephanie White's staff and the Gamecocks program. Staley herself took to social media to celebrate Hall's signing with visible enthusiasm, a level of public support for an
5. opposing professional franchise that struck many observers as unusual,
and which only deepened the perception of a formal or informal alliance between the two organizations. The fanbase reaction has been mixed at best. The
Defensive credentials of South Carolina products are not in dispute. Johnson in particular has drawn genuine praise for her work on that end of the
floor.
I don't know. I don't know. It's this may end up being, guys, we're heading in a direction of what could end up being a 30 for 30 one day on ESPN. What if we told you women's sports had the biggest star of all time? But neither their team nor the league was ready. I think about that.
The criticism centers more on roster priorities, with Monique Billings dealing with an injury and Alia Boston coming back from one. The argument from many corners is that adding frontcourt depth should have taken precedence over another perimeter-oriented South Carolina product. The counter-argument that Hall's defensive profile fills a specific need has not fully quieted the concern that the team's big rotation remains its most vulnerable area. Kate Martin was floated by some as an alternative target, though others pointed out she doesn't offer the defensive impact the Fever were apparently seeking.
And in place, I believe, from what I've been seeing, to, I don't know, undermine Caitlin Clark in a way. Gotta be, bruh. Now, Bree Hall signed yesterday. We all think that now they could have went out and they could have got Kate Martin. Now, people got in the comment section yesterday, well, John, Kate Martin is not that type of point guard. They need defense. Da, 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 da. We want Caitlin Clark happy. I thought that's what we all was trying to do. Caitlin Clark happy and to win. Is Bree Hall that difference of a maker to help them win? Let's all be.
White has reportedly been a consistent presence at South Carolina games during her off-season scouting, which explains both the familiarity with those players and the appeal of their defensive upbringing under Staley's system. Whether that scouting focus reflects genuine organizational strategy or a relationship that has taken on disproportionate influence over roster decisions is the question being
debated most actively among those paying close attention to the Fever's front office choices. On the other side of Indiana's upcoming schedule,
the Los Angeles Sparks held a press conference following their home opener loss that made clear the team is still searching for cohesion. Head coach
Kelsey Plum and Alyssa Thomas addressed the media after a performance that left the fanbase and locker room alike visibly
frustrated.
Is Bree Hall that difference of a maker to help them win? Let's all be for real. How much can Bree Hall get them over the hump? Crickets! Crickets! Yes. And if they didn't, like, if they was going to be serious about winning, they would have got a big, honestly, bro. Monique Billings hurt. Alia Boston coming off an injury. You know, I feel like they should have some way, somehow just got another big. That's just me. Now, I don't know if there wasn't any bigs available, but
Plum was direct in her self-assessment,
acknowledging that her team got outworked in key moments and that the second half was defined by a failure to respond after Indiana came out of the locker room with purpose. She noted the Sparks surrendered 26 points off 19 turnovers, a number that surfaced mid-press conference and landed. Competing against a team shooting 62% from the field was always going to be difficult.
But the internal critique was less about the shooting disparity and more about contested rebounds, 50-50 balls,
and defensive effort that fell below the standard the team claims to hold. Roberts was pointed on the question of defense specifically.
I don't know if there wasn't any bigs available, but to me, judging off everything I've seen, it looked like they could be indebted some way, somehow with Don Staley. Now, Don Staley wasted no time going to social media speaking about this. And when did Don Staley all of a sudden becomes the biggest Indiana Fever fan? I mean, she quickly, in a hurry, just became the biggest Indiana Fever fan. Hey, Breezy Hall, a baker's dozen for the Gamecocks. Let's go, Indiana. Let's go, Indiana.
When asked
Whether the team's new-look defensive additions simply needed time to develop chemistry, she pushed back clearly. Defense, in her framing,
Is not a matter of timing or familiarity. Either players commit to it or they don't.
sits. And the expectation is that the standard should be visible immediately, not gradually. She identified the post-halftime stretch as the turning point, explaining that missed open looks appeared to affect the team's confidence.
And that Indiana's ball movement exploited the Sparks' trap rotations repeatedly once they found their rhythm from 3. Cameron Brink played only
8 minutes, partially limited by early foul trouble.
Indiana. Let's go, Indiana. What? This is coming from Don Staley. Somebody said, Don, next year, can we please get a taller South Carolina player? Stephanie White watching and doing college games in her offseason, apparently, particularly watching South Carolina, and tells her GM, I want all of her players. Out of all the things developed at South Carolina, you could bet the defense skill sets will be on lock. I'm not knocking that. Raven Johnson.
Roberts made clear the team needs more from her, framing it as a confidence matter as much as a foul management issue. Ariel Atkins was credited for her defensive energy and for generating extra,
though the broader unit didn't consistently match her effort level. A dynamic Roberts acknowledged directly. The Sparks entered this season with
deliberate offseason investments in defensive personnel. One game is not a verdict.
But the manner in which they absorbed. Indiana's second-half run raised early questions about whether the pieces are currently connecting the way the
organization intended.
I'm not knocking that. Raven Johnson, hella good defensive player. Bree Hall, decent. But let's get another big from South Carolina. You feel me? Let's get somebody big from over there. I don't know. But fans ain't happy with this South Carolina, Indiana Fever, goddamn me, pipeline. Because that's what it's turning into. This is a pipeline that Stephanie White is establishing. Can't even lie. It is. It definitely is. Now, another big story is the LA Sparks. And the LA Sparks is the next team that the Indiana Fever got to face. Now, the LA Sparks look like they could be having a little drama within their locker room because their head coach, oh my goodness, she went on RAF in the last press conference. Let's blow it up. Let's look at it. Let's check it out.
Go ahead. Netta, on this side here. First game back, just what was your, other than the tough loss, what was your thoughts, just the energy tough loss, what was your thoughts, just the energy here for your return? And what are some things you guys think you guys can learn from this game tonight?
It's always great to be back here, and I'm so grateful to be back where it all started, especially with Coach Lynn and KP and the squad that we have together. I mean, I was feeling the feels, but all I'm thinking about right now is how I feel like we disappointed the people that came to the home opener. Playing here, even, before I left, like that was not it. That's not the standard that we operate by. I want to be on what KP is on. Y'all saw what she was doing in that second half, mostly that fourth quarter. Like, that is what needs to be happening from top to bottom. So I know you asked me kind of a different question, but that's kind of what's on my mind right now.
Jared, left side.
Hey, Coach.